Toronto Blue Jays play at home for first time since the pandemic. Matt Olson-Fernando Tatis Jr. Home runs July 27. Kanye West living in stadium to complete album. Jerry Jones expects vast majority of Cowboys to get vaccinated. Alize Johnson is looking unstoppable in an offseason pickup game other than draft day. There's no time in the fantasy baseball season more exciting, stressful and nerve-wracking than the trade deadline, whether it's in your league or Major League Baseball's. Knowing there's a definite point when teams must make a conscious decision to go for it or play for the future is thrilling, and somewhat frightening. We saw that with a few MLB teams cashing in their trade chips before last week's deadline. Whether it's fantasy or reality, there's usually a clear distinction between the haves and the have-nots once the dust finally settles, and there sure was a lot of dust flying around. In a 2-day period, more than 30 trades were made involving more than 80 players, 10 of them who were 2021 All-Stars. Rizzo made himself right at home, going deep in each of his first 2 games in pinstripes. While Gallo doesn't necessarily pull his fly balls enough to take full advantage of the short porch in right field, he has more than enough raw power to hit it out of any part of the park. Rizzo and Gallo also help balance out what was a very heavily right-handed lineup, so having them alternate with DJ LeMahieu, Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton will create major matchup problems for opposing pitchers. Meanwhile, Max Scherzer will have the benefit of the Los Angeles Dodgers' offense behind him, one that has helped Julio Urias to a major league leading 13 wins. Scherzer 2.76 ERA had 11 starts with Washington this season in which he pitched at least 6 innings and gave up 1 or 0 runs. He won 6 of them. Urias 3.40 ERA has done it 8 times, and won all 8. Before being traded to Oakland, Marte stole 22 bases in 64 games with the Miami Marlins. In his first 4 games with the A's, he was a perfect 4 for 4 in stolen base attempts. Those steals can make Marte a difference maker over the final 2 months, especially in AL-only leagues. Gray, 23, has never had an ERA over 3.00 at any minor league level, but he would have had a tough time getting anything more than an occasional spot start with the Dodgers for the foreseeable future. Ruiz was buried behind Will Smith and Austin Barnes. Both have a clear pathway to regular playing time in Washington. Austin Martin, the 5th overall pick in the 2020 draft by the Blue Jays, had been playing shortstop and center field in the minors, positions locked up by Bo Bichette and George Springer for a good while in Toronto. He'll have a better shot at reaching the majors with Minnesota, and left-hander Jesus Luzardo made a big splash in his 2019 debut with Oakland but has struggled with injuries and inconsistency since. Going to Miami in the Marte trade will give him ample time to get back on track. In an even better pitching environment, Jose Berrios tossed 6 scoreless innings in his debut with Toronto, but that was against the Royals. Let's reserve judgment until he faces a division rival. Likewise, New Yankees left Andrew Heaney and Jays reliever Brad Hand will have their hands full down the stretch. It was a smart baseball move, but a horrible fantasy one. There's no way for both to continue to produce at the same level. Meanwhile, Kendall Graveman, Richard Rodriguez and Yimi Garcia were traded out of the closer role on their old teams into set-up roles on their new ones. Adam Duvall hit 22 homers in Miami, but with a .227 average and .274 on-base percentage. He'll likely platoon with Eddie Rosario, who's been out for a month with an abdominal injury but should be back in a couple of weeks. Jorge Soler was just getting hot in Kansas City with 6 home runs in a 6-game stretch, but he's been hitting under .200 for most of the season. And Jock Peterson, acquired in mid-July, has struggled historically against left-handed pitching. Good luck trying to figure out who'll be in the lineup at any given time, much less who can put up decent numbers. Finally, in some AL or NI-only leagues, players who are injured or in the minors can't be picked up until they're on an active MLB roster. This year's deadline was unusual in the number of injured players who were traded. Even though MLB no longer allows waiver trades in August, players such as Luzardo, Schwarber, Eddie Rosario and Danny Duffy should available later this month for those fantasy managers who might have missed out on all the excitement of perhaps the busiest trade deadline in history.